Hello, welcome to Locked on Sharks, the premier hockey podcast of your favorite team in the Bay Area. And on today's episode, we're going to get you ready for the Montreal Canadiens game. Look at how these teams match up. Look at how the Canadiens have kind of started their rebuild process and how they're kind of going along with their process. And we're compare that to where the Sharks, of course, are in with their rebuild process, and give some predictions for tonight's game. So all that and more on today's episode of Locked on Sharks.
You're Locked on Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm your host, JD Young, contributor at Fear the Fin and San Jose Hockey Now. I want to thank you for making Locked on Sharks your first listen. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can watch this on YouTube as well. And little day-to-day right now, a little bit of voice is kind of coming and going right now, but I'm going to tough it through this, try to get through this game here for you guys, give it my all. I know the team needs me, et cetera, but big game for the Sharks as they start a road trip here against some very winnable competition or very losable competition if you're a team tank like I am. So the Sharks, they have a lot of games against very winnable competition. But before we dive into this game, and we're going to look at the lines, of course, for the Canadiens, look at the lines for the Sharks, how these guys match up. Let's get caught up with the news, the latest news. So James Reimer officially placed on IR. So it's Capo Kakkonen's net right now. Sharks do have two back-to-backs this week, so I would expect to see Aaron Dell at some point right now. He's still caught up on an emergency basis, so if they need to send him back, he won't have to clear waivers. So just keep that in mind. If he does need to stay for extended amount of time, they will have to actually keep him here, and then it would change from emergency situation to an actual call-up. So just keep that in mind, especially if Reimer doesn't come back as quickly as they think he's supposed to be. So he's placed on IR, so he will be out for a week. He is going on the trip, though, just in case he's feeling better by the end of the trip. But he is. I don't know if they retroactively placed him. I can assume they could have done that for starting on Saturday, since he didn't play on Sunday's game. They might have retroactively placed him on IR starting on Saturday, the day after his last game. So Sharks also called up Jeffrey Viel since Evgeny Gadovich has been dealing with an illness lately. So wanted to bring up some more support in the forward department. So as they make this trip, again, Viel will have to pass through waivers again once he's sent back. I don't expect there be a much of a grabbing for Jeffrey Viel. If not, you have Adam Raska, who basically kind of does the same thing on the Barracuda. So, and you have Ozzy Weisblatt, who's a better version of Jeffrey Viel, brings that tough guy, kind of that mental, that edge. But anyway, Jeffrey Viel, he's up with the Sharks. And then I'm sure when Gadovich is back, you'll probably see Viel sent back down, especially once you have to start bringing people back on IR. Mario Ferraro looks like it's going to be more of a week-to-week injury with his foot. He's still going on the road trip. I think he is eligible to come back kind of in the middle of the trip, but it sounds like it might be a little bit longer lingering issue with him. So we will see how quickly he gets rushed back for the Sharks, who are probably not going to be winning a lot of games here in the future. But you know how Mario Ferraro is. He wants to be out there at all in all situations. So let's start with the Canadiens lines. So kind of as we start to prep for this game. So Canadiens, definitely, we saw the Canadiens have their Stanley Cup run a couple years ago. Last year, they went from the Cup run to being the worst team in the NHL last year and winning the first overall pick in the draft. And they have some fun young players there. If you remember, before the season, I had a fun little bet with Scott from Locked on Canadiens about which team I think is going to finish with a better record. I said the Canadiens are going to have a better record than the Sharks, and he disagreed. And right now, I'm feeling really, really good about my Canadiens pick there, as the Sharks have not had a very good start. And the Canadiens, they're kind of bottom of the league as well, but they just have more fun and upside with them. So first line, Cole Caufield, he's really good. I was researching for my Fear the Fin article about kind of the Canadiens, and especially last year, and he had 1 goal in his first 30 games, and then he had 21 goals in his last 36 games. So as soon as they got Martin St. Louis in there, really kind of turned around Caufield and his progression, and he's off to a great start right now with 12 goals so far this season in 21 games. Nick Suzuki, their captain, again, also 12 goals this season, and Kirby Dach, who the Canadiens acquired from the Blackhawks at the trade or at the draft this year. And all these guys are young, they're fun, they're fast, they're skilled, and these are going to be the pieces of kind of the next version of the Canadiens as they work through their rebuild right now. They've done a good job kind of having these young players and then insulating them with some older players, some veteran guys who kind of know what they're doing, right? And just in case, if Caufield starts to struggle or Nick Suzuki starts to struggle, you have these guys who are kind of can be there and help these guys out. So, but what they're doing though is they're giving these guys prime opportunities to kind of learn their roles. And winning isn't as much as important right now as developing and learning how to win. And that's what the Canadiens are doing, I think, a pretty good job of right now. Second line, though, Evgeny Dadonov, who accepted that trade. Christian Dvorak, Brendan Gallagher. Third line, Joel Armia. Sean Mohan, Josh Anderson, who's very handsome. Fourth line, Michael Pezzetta, Jake Evans, and first overall draft pick, Yura Slavkovsky. On the D pair, Michael Matheson, who they acquired from the Penguins this offseason when they dumped Jeff Petrie, saved them some money. David Savard, who's probably on his way out of the NHL here sooner rather than later, but he's holding it down as their young defensemen continue to develop. Joel Edmondson, Caden Gooley. Caden Gooley's one of those young defensemen who's going to be super fun and super good in a couple of years. Played with Ozzy Weisblatt on the Prince Albert Raiders before he was traded in the WHL, but he's really good, really fun. He's going to be an offensive dynamite type of player for them in a couple of years. And then you have Arbor Jackai, he's a young guy. Interesting story about him. He actually worked at Costco before, while he was working his way and kind of trying to figure out, and is now playing professional hockey with the Montreal Canadiens. But super tough guy. I think if you're looking for a fight, that guy's the guy. And then Jonathan Kovacic. In goal, Samuel Montembeault and Jake Allen have been solid for both of them have been solid for the Canadiens this year. As we kind of dig into the matchups here, you're going to see how they've kind of helped to cover a lot of the mistakes for some of these defensive mistakes, especially that their young players are making for them. But Sharks, I assume it's going to be pretty much similar. We don't know, again, with Mario Ferrer out, Scott Harrington's going to be, is going to be the extra defenseman. I assume Jeffrey Viel is going to be the extra defenseman as well. We'll see how the Sharks line up, but I assume it's going to be pretty similar to what we saw on Sunday against the Canucks. If not, it might be some tweaks here and there, but the first line is pretty much intact. The second line is intact. The third line played really well. So if there's any changes, it might be along the fourth line there. So before we continue, and then we look at how these teams rate, how these teams match up, and how they're going to try to kind of control the pace of this game. Do want to know that today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has got you covered this season with more odds, props, and lines than ever before. They're your number one source for betting info, stats, news, and analysis. They've got you covered from football. Right now, you're in the meat of the heart of the NFL. You got college bowl games starting here soon. You got basketball, college basketball, World Cup, esports. They've got you covered with everything you need over at betonline.net. If you love sports podcasts, you can find those at BetOnline as well. The fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, so interesting game again. With the Canadiens, where they're, in the midst of their rebuild, but they're kind of much different approach than the Sharks, right? The Sharks went out this offseason. We're going to get a bunch of kind of veteran NHL guys who know what they're doing, competent players, right? Nico Sturm, who's been a good signing for them. Schaefer, Luke Cunnin, Oscar Lindblom, like all these guys who are kind of just NHL guys, right? And then we're going to let our young guys like William Eklund and Thomas Bordeleau marinate in the AHL until they're ready to steal one of these jobs, right? Much different approach from what we've seen from the Sharks in previous years. Then you have teams like the Ottawa Senators who are like, we drafted you, go play right away. Tim Stützle, for example, steps into the league, top 6 role. Josh Norris spent a little bit of time in the A, boom, you're going to go play. Like, that's how they've been. And the Canadiens, I think, are kind of in the middle, right? Where you let some of your guys develop, but you're putting them an opportunity to succeed, right? Cole Caufield, out of college, Hobie Baker award winner. I'm pretty sure, I'm fairly confident. Anyway, amazing in college, comes out straight to the, and he plays a little bit in the A. Okay, cool, go play. We're trying to win a cup. Go lightning in a bottle. See if you can score. Last year had a up and down season, but I'm going to say that's mostly due to the terrible coaching that they had. Get Martin St. Louis. Hey, let's put you in a position to succeed. Here, go play with Nick Suzuki. Go have fun. And they're being rewarded with that, right? Kirby Dach, who, never couldn't really catch on with the Blackhawks. And I don't know if it was maybe there was just too many people in front of him. You had DeBrincat, you had Taves, you had Patrick Kane. Maybe, couldn't really find his role there. Hey, come play with Nick Suzuki and Cole Caufield, being rewarded for it. So, but again, they still have plenty. They have kind of some veteran guys there who've been around the block. Dadonov, who's played for a bunch of teams, right? Has played big games in the playoffs, et cetera, et cetera. You have some guys who've been around and can kind of help these young guys grow into the role, but you're not stunting their growth by, playing them on the fourth line like Cole Caufield did last year. Cole Caufield is too skilled to be playing on the fourth line. So just an interesting way of how they're doing it compared to kind of like the Sens, who the Sharks recently played, right? Where it's just, okay, kids, go out there and figure it out. And now you're kind of seeing with the Sens where they're, they don't really know how to deal with the kind of the adversity because there's just not enough veteran guys on there who've been through it all. They have Claude Giroux, but Claude Giroux's been there for a couple months. Like, they don't have a kind of veteran tentpole guys that they can lead, or kind of lean on, right? And the Sharks right now, where they have those veteran tentpole guys that they can lean on, your Hertls, your Coutures, your Erik Karlssons, etc. But they're waiting for those AHL guys, your Eklunds and your Bordeleaus and your Robins, etc., to kind of come in and take those jobs. So just interesting how the 3 different roads of development, how it's going to all turn out here. But anyway, I digress. Let's look at how these teams actually match up. So should be an interesting game for how these teams match up. So the Canadiens are kind of boggle my mind, like digging into their stats. They're 12th, ranked 12th in their 5v5 goals, and the Sharks ranks 14th. But the Canadiens, their Corsi is really low. Their shot attempts are really low. Their high danger saves are really low. So it's just really interesting that this team they're not generating a lot of offense, but they're able to kind of Nick Suzuki, Cole Caufield, and Kirby Dach. That line is their engine to their team right now. And it's interesting, again, to see this young line. Here, kids, go play. Sharks, 5v5 expected goals for, ranked 23rd. Canadiens is ranked 24th. 5v5 Corsi for, Sharks ranked 23rd. Canadiens ranked 24th. Power play goals, Sharks ranked 14th. Canadiens ranked 29th. And finishing, the Sharks ranked 15th, and the Canadiens ranked 9th. So again, Canadiens, they're not generating a lot, but when they do, they're finishing it. Defense, 5v5 goals against 31st for the Sharks. The Canadiens ranked 27th. 5v5 expected goals for the Sharks ranked 15th. Canadiens ranked 23rd. 5v5 Corsi for Sharks ranked 18th. Canadiens rank 19th. So what that tells you is Sharks are doing a decent job of keeping the expected goals. They're kind of middle of the pack, right? Of keeping the expected goals down. They're controlling the pace of, for the most part, they're kind of middle of the pack when it comes to controlling the pace for the shots. PK goals against, Sharks ranked number 1, Canadiens ranked 13th. So Sharks have a big advantage there. When the Canadiens power play is on the ice, Sharks PK should win that matchup. And when the Sharks power play is on the ice versus the Canadiens, that's a pretty tight matchup. And the way the Sharks power play has been playing recently, I'm going to give them a slight edge right there. Goaltending. Canadiens ranked 10th. The Sharks ranked 30th in goaltending. So again, Canadiens, their defense has been making some mistakes, but their goaltending has been bailing them out. The Sharks, the defense is playing okay, but then when they make a mistake, the goaltending has not been able to bail them out. And I think that's been their big issue. And we've talked extensively about Kaapo Kähkönen, especially with its high danger save percentage, his expected goals saved. It's one of the worst in the league. The Canadiens, their goaltenders are bailing them out and making those big saves when they need them. The Sharks right now just aren't, especially with James Reimer not being 100%. We saw that in the Kings game, right? Let in 2 soft goals. I know he made a spectacular save later on to keep the Sharks in that game, but the goaltending has been kind of the big issue for the Sharks, especially compared to last year when the goaltending was keeping them in a lot of games. Offense and shooting comparison. So again, both these offenses, they're kind of generating goals for more than kind of expected, especially with the way their offenses are playing. I think the Sharks power play, though, is kind of going to be a big boost for them and a big advantage for them when the Sharks have a power play compared to when the Canadiens have a power play. So Canadiens power play it's again, a lot of young guys kind of trying to figure out, well, the Sharks new system, but those young guys the Sharks guys we've seen this David Quinn power play, clicking here for the last month, and it looks great. And to be honest, we've watched it. It looks great. Just the movement, Erik Karlsson running it, letting your 5 best players just go and try to score a goal. So defense though, PU, Sharks goals allowed per game, 31st in the league. Canadiens at 30th or 27th at 3. Expected goals allowed at 15. So again, that's the Sharks defense is doing a solid job at trying to limit the opponent, but the goalies are kind of not helping them out there. So, and then again, like I said, with the power play, that's where the Sharks are going to kind of make their mark in this game is Sharks power play. And then the Sharks penalty kill. So they have the advantage on the special teams. Play driving, again, not much from either one of these teams. I think the Sharks, that we've seen the Sharks kind of steadily improve theirs with their shot attempts, their expected goals for. They're creating more and more quality. And the Sharks they're very good at their high danger opportunities. Right now, the high danger chances for the Sharks are behind. So here's the teams in front of the Sharks with their high danger chances. The New Jersey Devils, who are absolute wagon. Tampa Bay Lightning, pretty good. Carolina Hurricanes, pretty good. Vegas Golden Knights, off to an amazing start. Boston Bruins, maybe the best team in the NHL. And then the San Jose Sharks. They're at 54.8% of high danger chances. So the Sharks do a great job of getting to the net and creating those high danger chances. For example, the Canadiens, though, same stat. They are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 from the bottom at 44.21. So expect the Sharks to be able to get plenty of high danger chances in this game, especially with Erik Karlsson's passing. Timo Meier-Tomas Hertl driving to the net. expect a lot of that. So Jake Allen is going to be starting for the Canadiens in this game. So the Sharks can get some good pressure on Jake Allen, get a lot of those high quality chances. That's where their kind of road to success there. So before we continue, talk about the kind of the three things I'm looking forward to in this game and then give my prediction. Do want to let you guys know about the Locked On Sports Today podcast. Thank you guys for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. Now, with your second listen, go check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast. They've got you covered with everything around all of sports, right? They have the hottest takes. They have the biggest news and biggest stories of the day. So go make sure you guys are checking out the Locked On Sports podcast today, wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. Okay. Three big things I'm looking forward to in this game. Again, the Canadiens, the key for them is they're young guys. Can the Sharks slow down that first line? If the Sharks can neutralize that first line of Caufield, Suzuki, and then Kirby Dach, Sharks are going to have a really, really good opportunity to try to win this game. So you have to slow down that line. You can't let them get going. So I'm interested to see how David Quinn tries to take care of that. Does he, we've seen the Couture line take a lot of those defensive zone draws. Can that Couture line with Barabanov, Couture, and Nieto, can they slow down that? And then you go let Hertl and Meier kind of run rampant through the other lines who I don't think can keep up with them defensively? Or do you put your best on best, right? And let Hertl, Meier, and Labanc just try to outplay your Suzuki, Dach, and then and Caufield and see, okay, we're going to put our best players out. Who wins this game? So, and then you try to get some secondary scoring from the Couture line. You hope your depth is better than their depth. If the top line's kind of even out, whose depth is better? So that's kind of the first thing I'm looking forward to. Second thing I'm looking forward is how does Kaapo Kähkönen respond, right? He's going to be the guy now. He knows James Reimer is not going to be there. He's the guy. This is his opportunity to really kind of instill some confidence, not only in himself, but back in the organization, right? We've talked extensively about Kaapo Kähkönen, and, he needs to kind of step up now. I love Aaron Dell. We're probably going to see Aaron Dell on this road trip just because with 2 back-to-backs, but it would be horrible. It would be a terrible thing to see Aaron Dell have to come to this game because the Sharks are down like 4-1, midway through the second period, and Kaapo Kähkönen is just not having himself a night. That's just, again, Kaapo Kähkönen, high danger save percentage, right? One of the worst in leagues. The Canadiens, not that great at producing high danger chances. So this has an opportunity for Kaapo Kähkönen to kind of get back and kind of start to build some confidence here. So how does Kaapo Kähkönen respond, especially after not a great game? His defense kind of let him down, but, probably at least one goal that he'd want back last game against the Canucks. That top line is your big worry, right? And then finally, how's the defense going to look, right? Mario Ferraro, not out. We saw a lot of kind of breakdowns last game that, leaving Elias Pettersson by himself, etc., stuff like that. Can the defense start to kind of gel a little bit more, especially with some moving pieces right now? Okay, you're Mario Ferraro is out for probably next couple of weeks. So Cechek and Šimik, how do those guys look together? Vlasic, who I think's played pretty well this year, Matt Benning. And we know what Carlson's going to provide a lot of offense, but can the other guys around him kind of step up and continue to, work on those mental lapses that are causing kind of those catastrophic errors for the Sharks? And right now, I've talked about on yesterday's show, they're just not skilled enough, not talented enough to overcome those type of catastrophic failures. So can the defense can they work on building a more solidified game plan and executing that game plan? So all that said and done, I think it's going to be a really tight one, to be honest. I think it's going to be a pretty fun, exciting game. I think the offenses on both these are going to be able to kind of do their thing, right? And I think it's going to be kind of whatever goalie can make a save. And I know it's kind of a cliche thing, but I think the offenses are going to have their way tonight, and it's going to be whoever's offense can generate more chances. And even though the Sharks' offense is better at generating high danger chances, I don't think Kaapo Kähkönen right now, he's not the guy who's kind of making you that game winning save that you need. So I got a 4-3 Canadiens victory, but I think it's going to be one of those like tightly contested down to the last 5 minutes type of game. And I think the Canadiens sneak it out just because they're a little bit more rested and it's at home. So that is my prediction, 4-3 Canadiens. Let me know what you guys think is going to happen. So I think it's going to be a really fun game. And plus, it's a nice 4 p.m. start. I like the 4 p.m. start. So, all right, that's going to do it for me today. You can follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, Locked On Sharks. You can listen wherever you get podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, all those places. I know the Spotify Wrap's coming up. So if Locked On Sharks is in your Spotify Wrap, tag us, let us know. We'll be happy to share it. What else? Me on my Fry Hole on Twitter. You can watch on YouTube. Go Sharks. Then we got some CUDA games coming up. So yeah, we got plenty of stuff to talk about, guys. So make sure you guys are keeping it here for your Locked On Sharks. Until tomorrow. Bye, friends.